Welcome to the next installment of my video lecture series for international economics. And in this particular video lecture, I'm going to be taking a look at two specific items from the textbook. The first being the efficiency case for free trade, why people advocate for free trade, specifically on an efficiency perspective. And also I'm going to couple that with the market failure argument for a tariff. Excuse me. So the two things we're going to take a look at is why people argue for free trade and how economists use efficiency to analyze free trade. And then we're going to look at the counterpoint of if there's a market failure in the marketplace, that a tariff can actually improve total welfare in the country that is imposing the tariff. So if you look at the graph at the top here, we have our domestic supply, our domestic demand. So this is the domestic marketplace. And we have a world price that is below the equilibrium that would have occurred in this economy if it was producing all on its own. It was self-sufficient, it was producing in autarky. So this world price is below the equilibrium that would have occurred in this domestic marketplace. So at that world price, that will give us how much people want to buy of this imported item, D1. And at this world price, we will see how much domestic suppliers want to produce at that price. So we see that the amount demanded at this world price is much greater than what is domestically supplied. So the difference between D1 and S1, so if we take D1 and subtract S1 from it, that will give us the level of imports. And all I've done in the bottom graph here is transpose that domestic supply against the marginal social benefit curve. So let's assume here that we have free trade and that a law gets passed that imposes a tariff on this particular item. So when individuals or other countries import this particular commodity into the United States, they have to pay a tax in order to import it into the United States. So for example, if this were the market for oil, the United States might place a per barrel tax on oil, $10 per barrel on that item. Make sure you realize that what's the impact of this on the world price. If you think about this, if you're an individual who's importing oil into the United States, and let's say you're selling it for $50 a barrel, the United States imposes a $10 per barrel tax, you're going to want to recoup that $10. So the price of your product goes from 50 to 60 in order to account for the fact that a $10 per unit tax is placed upon what you're importing. So let me bring in this new price, which didn't work. So let me do that. All right. Try that one more time. Get out of all these and see if I can get this to come up right. There we go. A little glitch in this program. I like this program quite a bit, but the issue with it, number one, is the company stopped producing it, and I can understand why it's got so many little glitches associated with it. It's unfortunate that they didn't fix the glitches and adjust the product. I really like this, particularly for graphically intensive economics types of things. It really makes providing videos very intuitive for students. So just bear with me. I'm sure this will happen on some other occasions with this particular product. So here we have the new price. Here was the original price. And that gave us the demand, domestic demand, and the domestic supply. And the difference between D1 and S1 would give us the level of imports. S1 is what is being domestically produced. The tax is placed, or the tariff is being placed upon this particular product. So the new world price is going to be the original world price plus the tax. So the vertical distance between these two is the tariff that's being placed upon this particular item. So let's take a look at what occurs because of this. The new domestic supply is going to be where the new world price plus the tariff intersects domestic supply. So if we go to that point right there and we go straight down, and let me change that so it matches the other ones. So where the new world price plus the tariff intersects the original domestic supply, this will give us the new domestic supply. So I'm going to cheat and copy and bring this over and change that to a 2. So that is the new domestic supply. So realize what's occurring here. What's occurring here is the fact that the world price has increased because we have a world price plus the tariff. Domestic supply is going to increase because the domestic supply curve is upward sloping. So as the world price goes up, domestic supply is going to increase. Conversely, what are we going to see when we increase this price that includes now the tariff? Where it intersects domestic demand, that is going to give us the level of domestic demand after the imposition of the tariff. So this is going to be the new domestic demand. And again, I'm going to cheat, copy and paste this or duplicate this over and change this to a 2. So this indicates what the new domestic demand is. So because of the imposition of the tariff, we see a new domestic level supply and a new domestic demand. And the difference between these two is smaller. If we take D2 and subtract S2 from that, we get the level of imports. So we see by the imposition of the tariff, the level of imports has decreased. So we can use this information to show the different distortions that can occur. There's a production distortion by the imposition of the tariff, and there's a consumption distortion. Now, if you look at my previous videos that I have for this chapter, I go over this in quite a bit of detail. So if you're not 100% sure of where I'm getting these things from, you can go back and reference those previous videos. So if I highlight this area here, the green area right there is the production distortion. That is production that did not occur with the original world price, but is now occurring because of the imposition of the tariff. So this part here is considered the production distortion. If I highlight a different area, and let me change the color of it. If it's going to let me, it's not going to let me, so let me change that after I color it in. And let me bring that up again. And let me change that color to, no, that's exactly the same. Change it to that. All right. So this area right here, this triangle that is bounded by D2 and D1 in the demand curve, is the consumption distortion. This is consumption that is not taking place after the imposition of the tariff. So this is considered a deadweight loss because this is consumer surplus that used to exist but does not exist anymore because of the imposition of the tariff, which is causing consumption to decrease. So the triangle here is the consumption distortion. The triangle here is the production distortion. So these are the deadweight losses that occur because of the imposition of the tariff. So this is the efficiency case for free trade, that there are distortions that occur in the marketplace that actually decrease social welfare because of the imposition of the tariff. So we have distortions on the consumption side and on the production side, and that is, by default, inefficiency, the inefficiency caused by the imposition of the tariff. So if we move from the efficiency case for free trade to the market failure argument for a tariff, the argument is that if there are significant benefits to society that aren't included in the marketplace, i.e. there are positive externalities associated with the production of this particular commodity, that if these benefits are greater than the production distortion and the consumption distortion, then there you have a valid argument for the imposition of the tariff. So let us measure this. Let's bring down the new tariff level, the new domestic production level. And let me change that. And again, I'm getting a little glitchy here with the program. Let me do it one more time. Again, apologies. As I've stated, one more time. There we go. I think part of the issue was I had two windows open and I was opening up the manager for the other window instead of this window. So this is the supply in the domestic marketplace after the imposition of the tariff. Here we have the marginal social benefit curve. So there are positive externalities associated with the production of these particular items. And let me go back here. I apologize. I changed the color of these things by mistake, and that's exactly what I did. So I'll make that green, and I believe this one was a yellowish color. And let me get rid of these separate windows. So again, apologies for that. So we have now transferred the new domestic quantity supplied after the imposition of the tariff. And the assumption that people are making with the market failure argument for a tariff is that there are significant positive externalities associated with the production of this item. And this is measured by the marginal social benefit curve. So what their argument is that the area underneath the marginal social benefit curve between S1 and S2, and let me actually highlight that area here, and I will change the color of it. And change that to a gray. There we go. So their argument is, the individuals who make the market failure argument for a tariff, is that this good is actually being underproduced, that there are significant positive externalities associated with its production. So by increasing production, we are increasing the social benefits to society. And their argument is that this area here, as long as this area here, that the marginal social benefit that is being created by the increased production from S1 to S2, that this gray area here is greater than the distortions that occur by the imposition of the tariff. So as long as this area here, this gray area that we see, that is the marginal social benefit or the social benefit that is being produced by the increased production of this commodity from S1 to S2, as long as this area is greater than these two areas combined, then you can make a market failure argument for the imposition of the tariff, because the gains in social benefit is greater than the inefficiencies caused by production distortions and consumption distortions.